All right, everyone, welcome back to AP Macroeconomics with your favorite teacher, me, Mr. Fritz. Today we're going to talk about the supply and demand model. Yeah! Before we begin, children, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave comments to tell me how great I am, and send the video to all your friends and tell everybody so they can learn too, and I can get views and I can get monetized. Oh my god, I want money, children. So we're talking about the supply and demand model, and remember, we've got two variables here. We've got our quantity and the price. I'm going to make this a market for cookies just so it makes sense to be talking about something, but it could be a market for literally everything. It could be a market for literally anything, not everything. All right, so our demand curve is downward sloping. We're starting with the demand curve. The demand curve is downward sloping because the law of demand states that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. As price goes down, quantity demanded goes up, and you already know this because for cookies, if the price for cookies goes down, we're gonna go buy more cookies because now they're cheaper, but if the price gets too high, we're gonna be like, I don't really need any cookies. You're being ridiculous with this cookie price. I'm all itchy, don't watch, don't look. Think of the curve as being price and quantity demanded. If there's a change in price, we just move along the curve because the curve is made up of price. Think of it as a bunch of different price points. Like let's say this is 50 cents, and at 50 cents we want 100 cookies. If the price goes down to 25 cents, we want 150. And if it goes up to 75 cents, we might want 50 cookies. So that's just movement along the curve. But if something other than price changes, there's going to be a shift of the curve. So if we say demand has changed due to something other than price, a shift to the right will be an increase, a shift to the left will be a decrease. That's going to be true for every graph I teach you for the rest of the year. Things that cause the demand curve to shift. First would be a change in taste and preferences. For cookies, if people are like, hey, I'm on a diet now and I don't want to eat cookies anymore because they're so sweet, the demand curve could shift to the left. We'd label that D1. And we'd be like, hey, demand is now lower. People aren't eating cookies, so at every given price, demand is lower, nobody wants them. The next thing that could cause the curve to shift is a change in the price of related goods or services, like substitutes and complements. A substitute is where you buy one instead of the other. Substitutes for cookies are going to be things like brownies. So if brownies are now more expensive, people will start buying cookies, demand will increase and shift to the right. Complements, however, are things you buy together. So a complement for cookies is going to be milk. So if the price of milk were to increase and no one wants to buy any milk anymore, well then they're not going to need any cookies. The demand for cookies will fall because you eat them together. A change in income will also affect demand. If it's a normal good, the more you get paid, the more you're going to buy. So if the minimum wage goes up, we would expect the demand for cookies to increase and shift to the right. If it's an inferior good, it's going to be the opposite. The more you get paid, the less you're going to buy. So let's say like knockoff cookies, like Walmart brand cookies. If wages go up and incomes are up in the United States, we would expect people to buy less of the great value cookies, demand would fall, and they go out and get actual Chips Ahoy and stuff like that. Another thing that could affect the demand for cookies could be a government intervention. It's like a tax. If there was an excise tax or a sin tax on cookies because the government didn't want us to eat a bunch of sugar, they would put an extra tax on top of the cookies. Demand would fall because no one wants to buy the cookies because they have to pay that extra tax. Finally, something that could cause a change in the demand for cookies would be a change in the number of consumers. If a whole bunch of people moved to the city or moved to the state of Texas, we would expect demand for cookies in Texas to increase because more consumers means more demand. Now we're going to talk about supply. But I gotta erase. Let's erase. Now we're talking about supply. Supply is upward sloping because as prices go up, quantity supply increases because supply comes from producers or sellers of goods and services. So as the price goes up, there's a chance for profit. The more that businesses think they can earn off of selling cookies, the more cookies they'll produce. The less they think they can earn, the less they'll produce. Things that cause the supply to shift. First would be a change in the number of producers. If there's another cookie company that comes into the fold, like Tay cookies start going on sale. Well, now there's more cookies available, there's more producers, the supply of cookies will increase and shift to the right. Notice that the new supply curve, that is an increase in supply, is lower than the old supply curve. Don't say that it goes up or down. Don't say demand or supply goes up or down. Say supply increases or decreases, because if you said supply goes up, intending to say that it's increasing, you might shift it to the left, which is higher than the original curve, but is showing a decrease in supply, so don't do that. The next thing that could cause a change in supply is the change in the price of inputs. Inputs are the things that the business or producer needs to purchase in order to produce their product. So inputs in cookies would be things like flour, milk, sugar. So if the price of flour were to increase and it became harder to produce cookies, the supply of cookies would decrease and shift to the left, and now they would be more expensive because there'd be less of them on the shelf. Something else that could cause a change in the supply could be a change in expectations. Maybe whoever is selling the cookies knows that it's January and people are going to be going on diets because of their resolutions. Well, if they're on a diet and they're not going to be buying cookies, we might as well cut back on cookie production and save our products until February, when we can start making heart-shaped cookies and sell a whole lot more, and the supply will increase. Finally, another thing that could cause a change in the supply of a good or service could be government intervention again, in the form of subsidies. A subsidy is when the government pays a producer to produce their good or service. So if for some reason the government wanted to increase the amount of cookies that we were eating, they could pay the cookie companies to make more cookies. That's going to make it easier to produce cookies. The supply is going to increase and shift to the right. I know I already said finally, but it wasn't finally. Another thing that could change the supply of cookies could be new technology that makes it easier to produce the cookies. Maybe there's new giant mixing bowls that mix way faster than before, or ovens that cook way quicker. That would make it easier to produce goods and services. Now I'm going to show you how equilibrium looks. Alright, this is what equilibrium looks like when the two curves come together, where our demand is equal to our supply, where the quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied, is our equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. We'll also call this the market clearing price, because that's the price at which the quantity supplied, the amount that businesses are willing to produce at that price, is equal to the quantity demanded, the amount that consumers are willing to buy at that price, and what is produced is bought off the shelf and clears the market. Now let's look at how prices change. Here we are in the country of Tay Land, and in Tay Land, people have decided that they're not going to go on diets anymore. They think it's ridiculous. It's time to just live our lives and have fun, and we're going to eat whatever we want. Okay, so we're no longer on diets. That's going to affect the demand. When you're doing one of these questions, you can ask yourself, is this something that makes people want to buy more or less cookies, or whatever the product is? Or is it something that makes it easier or harder to produce the cookies or whatever product it is? If people are no longer on diets, that affects demand. If we're no longer on diets, we're going to want more cookies. Demand will increase and shift to the right and look like this. Dos, tres, cuatro. You're going to label that our new price has risen. This is the most important point to label, because you got to show that prices have gone up. So our equilibrium price is higher. Our equilibrium quantity has increased as well. And there we are. Look at that beautiful graph. We've shown that the price is higher for cookies, and the amount being produced and bought off the shelf is increasing as well. Hooray, we did it. Yay, I just showed you supply demand graph, and hopefully really quick. I haven't edited it yet, so I'm not sure. Join me again next time. Join me again next time when we talk about more stuff that I'm not sure what we're doing yet. Goodbye.